Next up, the general topic in the risk report was operational risk being elevated across multiple fronts. Any thoughts on that broad topic?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to add or talk on is cyber, right? Cyber risk. We spent a lot of time obviously developing our incident response plan. And I think that is so key for every credit union is to have an incident response plan that is ready and tested. And probably the most important part of that is just your communication plan. So we took the approach that we're going to have a cyber incident. Something's going to happen. We're going to get hacked. We're going to have some kind of exposure. So we took that approach in developing our incident response plan. And we spent a lot of time, obviously all the different aspects involved with that, but the hard part, I think, at the end, and it's not the technical part of cyber, but it's communication. How do you communicate to all the stakeholders, to your board, to your staff, and most importantly, how do you communicate this to your membership? Because that's so critical. Because you mess that up, then you could have a huge reputation risk because social media will explode, and you're going to have bigger issues. So that to me is the most important part of dealing with cyber, and then obviously having proper cyber insurance in place, understanding your risks. You might have to have multiple cyber policies to get the coverage you want, but that to me is so key for credit union today.
Great points. Steve, Todd?
Just kind of one thing they point out in the risk report along this line and operational risk, they talk about legacy technologies creating competitive disadvantages. Well, we've seen this with a couple of our clients. They try and upgrade systems so they can keep up with the rest of the world, and they end up having conversion issues, and members lose access to payment systems, and they get accounts that can't be reconciled. And so while all these upgrade paths are very important, it's like you need to have good plans and testing before you go through conversions of some of these older legacy systems. The cost of doing a conversion improperly is pretty significant, and sometimes it drags you for a couple of years. Back to Dennis's whole thing about having a plan for when something like this does happen. You had the big credit union in the news last year on the West Coast where members couldn't access their funds for, did it drag on for a week or more? Those are pretty significant risks. NCUA has been really good about how they handle this with credit unions. They have their information security officers. They rarely write doors, but they're really good about findings, and they issue a lot of findings. And I think their whole attitude is amongst their information security officers is they are there to help you and improve your security profile. That's generally the course of action they take. Some of this gets back to a cost thing again. What can you afford? So I would just say, for the credits out there, when you get multiple findings in your information security, ask your examiner prioritize them for you, because some of the stuff is very expensive, and what has to be done today versus what kind of residual risk can I take if I don't spend that money for 6 months. So ask them to prioritize. I don't think operational risk and cybersecurity risk will ever leave the top 3 or 4 risks from our regulators ever again. And the AI fraud tools, you can go on the dark web and find AI tools to help you commit fraud. So it's just going to be an ever growing kind of a race to the top, a race to the bottom. You're a criminal or a credit union trying to keep criminals out. Plan on spending money in this area
forevermore. Steve?
No, I think we covered it because I had written down, and Todd covered it, was that we, are surprised that, the conversion issue has become something that's, when it rears its head, it is just so ugly.
Yep. Yeah, that's one thing. Well, we did pretty much a wholesale change back in 2018 through 2022, right? We upgraded core, digital, debit card, right? We did a lot in a 3-year period of time, but just the core itself. I mean, take the time to do the necessary data cuts. I think we did 3 or 4 before we were comfortable before we moved to our core. So then when it came to conversion weekend, it went without incident. And then the other thing I've seen out there is credit unions purchased a new core system, and they don't necessarily know 100% what they purchased. It's too much. They don't have the expertise. So I think understanding exactly what you're getting into before, what's all involved, particularly at the end, as far as generating the necessary reports that you need, how the report writers work, how the accounting function is going to work, how that's going to maybe integrate with a third party type of accounting system, making sure that's all tested. So that's so key. As Todd and Steve said, taking your time and spending the money to do it right. And if you got to overspend a little bit to get it right, I think it's well worth that. So you don't have issues with your membership at the end of the day.
As someone once said, if you don't have time to do it right, you don't have time to do it over. All right. Fraud schemes targeting traditional payment methods and otherwise. Dennis,